How's it going, everyone, and welcome. This is Connor here at the Game House, here today for my Deadlock Hero tier list, kind of post-Major Shop rework. I wanted to give this one a little bit of time to play on the new patch, try some things out, watch Deadlock Fight Night 25 to kind of see how the pros are playing, and get my thoughts together on a lot of the changes that have come with this patch, because there are so many significant ones that have come through. So I wanted to kind of come through and talk about it. I'll kind of show what I've got on screen here. So I've obviously got the tier maker that we'll go through and do each hero one at a time, be able to talk through each one. But I've also got statlocker.gg up. I don't know if anyone's used this before, but this is a really nice community resource. I've got my face covering up some of it, but you can filter by rank. You can look at, lane pairings, performance stats of different heroes, lots of different things on here. So I highly recommend you use this if you've never used it before. It's a great little tool and just a fun community resource. So I'll quickly give some background on kind of my experience with Deadlock. So for me, I am around Emissary. I float between like Emissary, Archon, and the one below Emissary, Ritualist. I've got about 300 hours in the game. I've played since this game came out, just a little about, around a year ago. And I watch Fight Night every week. Just a huge fan of the game and the esports. So these are my thoughts. I've also kind of looked at what a lot of the other Deadlock influencers have put together with their lists, and I've tried to take all that into consideration when making my list. So I thought we'd go ahead and just hop in here, and we'll just go one hero at a time and talk about it. So let's start off with Bebop, and it's going to be a controversial one, I think, to start off right off the bat, but I think I have to put Bebop in D tier just because he just does not feel good to play right now. This is going to be kind of a reiterating theme throughout this list, but right now, one of the main things that I have seen, I think across pretty much any rank in the new patch, is that sustained damage is really valuable, and his bomb build is, I think, the best part of his kit, which does not provide much sustain. So there's some instances that he can bully early in lane, but even then, a lot of, especially in Deadlock Fight Night, the presence of Healing Nova in lane early really makes it hard for him to exist. I'm sure there are situations where where Bebop can be good, like any hero in this list, but for me right now, Bebop is pretty firmly D tier. And again, I didn't say at the beginning, but this list is intended to be for all ranks. So if we're looking at kind of the pick rate and win rate for Bebop, he is down here pretty low. He's got a pretty low win rate right now and with a pretty high pick rate. So a decent sample size, one of the higher sample sizes at lower ranks. This is not going to be, this is just a kind of piece of the puzzle for me, is this pick rate, win rate. If tier lists were just which heroes won the most, I would just put them in order of win rate here, but that's not what this is, right? So in any case, let's look at Holliday next. And Holliday is one where she has... So when you're rating heroes, I feel like you have to look at what they can provide for the team. Can they provide a lot of defensive utility? Do they have great burst like Bebop? Do they have great sustain like maybe a Wraith? Or do they have a good catch ability? So this is a phrase used a lot in Deadlock, is how good of a kind of an initiator are they, where they have an ability like Holliday's Lasso that if you land it, a lot of times can net you a kill. And Holliday has that. A really good kit. Her barrel can be great splash damage, and her gun is pretty deadly early game. All that to say, I have Holliday in A tier. I don't think she's must pick, and even on this list, she's quite a bit lower. This is on a pretty low sample size though, and this is also across all ranks. The other thing you're going to notice about this is easier characters are generally going to float towards the top because they're going to get picked more, and at lower ranks especially, players just need a hero that's simple to play, like 7, in order to win with. So 7's always probably going to have a high pick rate and win rate in Deadlock, I feel. But with Holliday, I think that she is in a good spot right now. There's no one item necessarily that I think in the new update really moves the needle for her. I feel like she was good before, wasn't heavily impacted by the patch that much, and is now good after. The other thing I've got pulled up here is Deadlock Fight Night, just kind of the picks. So she was featured in every match in the NA finals at least. So it tells me that pros are prioritizing Holliday, and I understand why. I think at a high level, she is really good. She would be, if this were a lower, ranked tier list, she'd be down here. But at across all tiers, I can't quite put her in S because I don't think she's that good for lower ranked players typically. But across all ranks, I do think she is very good. So A. The next one, though, is a pretty easy choice. That's going to be Lady Geist at S tier. This just feels like a hero with a lot of strength right now in the current Deadlock meta. At lower ranks, I mean, like I've seen Siphon builds just kind of go crazy, where even after the patch, you build Rapid Recharge and some different things like that. She's got bomb builds that are really fun. Her ult is just always providing utility. In Fight Night this week, she was picked by the other side, by Hydronation, every round. And just feels like a champ, or a hero, rather, that is good at every single rank. I don't think there's a rank you could play Geist and have her feel bad right now. So yeah, I have Geist firmly in S tier. This is where she deviates a little bit, because a lot of heroes that I feel like are going to gravitate towards the upper part of this list benefit from Mercurial Magnum. This item right now that's basically the upgrade of Quicksilver Reload that gives you a ton of spirit damage with your gun. She doesn't really utilize that. It just doesn't make sense with her kit. But the other big item right now that's making a lot of impact are things like Boundless Spirit and Spirit Burn. Just these kind of spirit-heavy items that can really cause a ramp in damage and healing. She benefits a lot from the healing portion of that, especially even getting like healing tempo up, things like that. So Lady Geist feels very firmly in S tier. She's also my most played hero, so maybe a little bit of personal bias coming in, but I still think she's far and away a solid hero. Lash is next up. Lash doing okay as far as he gets picked a lot, which makes sense. He's a fun character to play. I can see why he gets picked a lot. In Fight Night this week, I thought we saw some Lash. Maybe it was just an EU. Not seeing him here, so not a huge pick priority or ban priority here, which makes sense because I have him in B tier. So I feel like Lash is good. This is one of the, I think, the best Lash has felt in a while is in this patch, honestly. However, I don't know that he's still in like this upper echelon. I think he takes some setups to really make work. His ult is really valuable, especially if you have like a wombo combo into a Dynamo ult. There's a lot you can do with Lash, and a good Lash is going to be devastating, but he's not amazing all the time. And that's really probably what B tier is really going to represent for me, at least in how I do tier lists, is if this is a hero in B tier, they can absolutely make an impact, but it's not going to likely be the case every game. Where I feel like almost every game I play against Geist or as Geist, there's going to be a significant impact on the game made. So that's just, again, for a framework thing for me of how I rate characters. Next up is McGinnis. And I had an initial idea for McGinnis. I kind of want to look, though. I'm considering reevaluating, because there's no way in Fight Night that McGinnis is getting played, yeah. This is the problem, is I really don't think McGinnis's kit is ever going to be that well suited for super high-ranked play, at the team level at least. Now, this is being made for ranked, just like the average player playing in pickup games. So Fight Nights, bans and picks are always a little different, because it's more like securely team-oriented, kind of like the Scrim rankings. This is a little different. I think at the end of the day, though, I initially had McGinnis. I kind of have like an offline planned version of this on my other monitor. I had her in B, or a C rather. I might move McGinnis up to B tier though. I'll put her in C for now because that's where I originally had her. But I could see McGinnis getting bumped up to a B tier. We'll see though. McGinnis turret build right now I think is still the way to go. You could probably play a fire rate build as well, and maybe build like Ricochet and some other things like that. I don't know if Mercurial Magnum could work on McGinnis. Maybe if you did it on her turret, that could be interesting. I don't know. I've not tried that one yet, but I've seen some McGinnises with the healing tempo turret healing that you can get like 60k healing in a game, which is pretty insane. So that makes me want to put McGinnis a little higher, but let's stick with C for now. All right, next up is Mo and Krill. We got one in each tier. What a nice little start. Perfectly balanced. It won't stay that way. Mo and Krill, I was looking at this, it was interesting. Mo and Krill has a pretty low pick rate and win rate. not prioritized in Fight Night, but I think Moen Krill is still decent. His catch is just so good. Feels somewhat meddling, though, in terms of, like, where the meta is right now. I've seen some Krills still do good in my games around Emissary, but hasn't really moved the needle. I'm not sure what you would build on Krill right now. Maybe Scourge could be fun, kind of like you build Calico, just this bruiser that runs around and wants to be in close. Torment Pulse, all that good stuff. But not super sure. I originally had Krill in B. I think I actually am going to go Krill in C, though. Maybe... Let's actually go behind McGinnis. I'm really reevaluating Krill as I talk here. Because the more I think about it, I think StatLocker's rating is actually pretty spot on for Krill. Because it just doesn't feel like Krill has a good place in the meta right now. It feels like he's going to get bursted down really fast. Maybe he can Warpstone in and get an ult, but it's still tough. Let's look at Paradox now. Paradox is a crazy one, because Paradox is at the bottom of StatLocker's win rate. I think that's mainly, though, because this is just a hard character to play. And this is why you see the opposite. I mean, a lot of times, yeah, this is a character getting picked every time in Fight Night, and always has historically had a very high pick rate. So this is where the parity is going to feel like a really wide gap. I feel like Paradox still deserves to be an A tier, though. I'm going to put her behind Holliday. Very similar idea, though, with both. Difficult hero to play, but really incredible value, and almost doing the exact same thing for the team. You're getting a catch, you're pulling an enemy into your side of the battle, and you're bursting him down and getting a kill. That's what you're trying to do with both. Both have a splash kind of AoE style thing, and just kind of utility. So I think Paradox and Holliday are very, very similar. I've also seen some Carbine builds with Paradox go pretty crazy. If you're looking for single burst, but still, neither are going to be S tier, but both pretty good. All right, let's look at Pocket next. Pocket is an interesting one, because I feel like Pocket has had a little bit of a resurgence. I'm guessing is going to be lower. Again, this is another hard to play character, hard to really play at a high level, so going to be down here. On StatLocker. I think got picked a couple times, though, in Fight Night. Yeah, there's one. There's a Pocket. There's a ban of a Pocket. And picked again. So pick or ban 100% of the time this last week is interesting. I originally had Pocket in C, but even as I'm thinking, I think I'm going to go B tier for Pocket. I think Pocket is one that is really tough to play right now. I feel like you have to go... See, this is tough, because Affliction feels really good. But with all the healing, there are a lot of ways to kind of mitigate what you're doing with Pocket. I feel like you have to have a heal bane or something like that going on to deny healing to really get a lot of value out of him. But still feels like a solid hero if you can play him. At lower ranks, though, if I were to filter this to just include only low ranks, I bet it would be way worse than it is. High ranks, I'm sure, is way better. This kind of puts him right in the middle of B tier. Feels similar to Lash is how I feel about this. Like these two feel so similar right now for how they play out in ranked. So I've tried Pocket recently. I had a terrible game on him. I'm also just not a Pocket player. So that's one of those that just kind of feels that way, right? All right, let's look at 7. And 7's going to be high here. I don't think got picked much. Okay, I say that I got picked every time. I'm so dumb. I am going to put 7 in... I'm going to put him in A tier above Holliday. There's probably a case to be made for S, because 7 just feels so strong. I love playing 7. He's a character I've played since this game came out. I've always loved the ult build. It's just hilarious to play. It's really good with Lightning Scroll, too, and I think I play it with Lightning Scroll and Boundless, maybe. In any case, 7 does feel good. I think there are enough ways, though, to stop a 7 with knockdown or different things like that, even if he has Unstoppable, to still kind of get under his skin. That being said, though, if you're a newer player watching this, or if you're a little bit more inexperienced and you're just looking for a good, solid character to play and learn this game, 7 is 100% who you should play. I think he is a perfect pick for a lower-ranked player who wants to climb, because you can almost always get value out of this guy in your games. So, good in Fight Night, really good in Ranked. Again, I could put him in S there's a part of me that really wants to, but I feel like S right now is so reserved for some really elite characters that I feel like 7 is just at the very top of A tier. In my initial list, I actually had him in B, but the more I've thought about it, that's just kind of ridiculous. So I think A tier is really good for 7. All right, Shiv up next. Interesting one. Shiv is really bad on stat locker. No surprise, he's a hard character to play. He gets played a lot. I think because his ult, you know, it's just like a fun ult to try and chain kills together. It's interesting. But Shiv can really feed if you don't know what you're doing with Shiv. I've seen it a lot in ranked, and it can be bad. I think, though, and Fight Night, yeah, you see him banned every game, because I think Shiv is broken right now. I think Shiv, if you can get him going, I have also seen Shiv take over more ranked games than maybe any other hero on this list. So he will be going in S tier above Lady Geist, actually. And that's a big deal for me, because I play Geist more than any other hero right now. And I feel like Geist is very strong, but Shiv feels unstoppable in some situations. I actually need to look at exactly what build does this. I think it's a spirit build, but you can chain his ult and survive through anything. And I've seen a knife bleed build with him be very good, but you have to understand how to play Shiv, get his rage meter up, jungle, do all those things properly. If you can, I really feel like Shiv is unstoppable, and I'm surprised to see him this low. Only reason I'm not is because he is a harder character to play. All of these at the bottom are, but still. Shiv is going to be S tier for me, for sure. All right, Sinclair's up next. I feel like Sinclair is one of the harder characters to rate. Pretty good usage in Fight Night. Let's see, was played one game here, it looks like. You see him in and out of Fight Night, or, you know, they'll play that kind of... He's a counter pick a lot of times against, like, a Warden, because you just want to steal the ult, or against a Dynamo even, maybe. The Hex Punch build can still be good. The Duplicate, just Spirit build is really good. He's got so much burst in lane early, probably one of the best laners. With the skill ceiling, though, and, you know, if you don't have a good counter matchup in ranked to steal an ult, he can feel pretty bad. So I am going to go B tier, actually in between these two. I think that feels pretty good. Feels very much in line with these two, as far as can be a really dominant pick, can feel really good in lane, but can also just be a feed factory and not do much. Also drops off late game, undoubtedly. So Sinclair feels pretty good in B tier to me. Vindicta is up next. Vindicta is lower here, and got played once in Fight Night. I'm actually surprised by that. I haven't seen Vindicta in Fight Night in a while, actually. I don't feel. I don't know. Vindicta doesn't feel that good to me right now, though. I have Vindicta in C tier, and I'm actually going to go below... I'll go in between these two. I think she's better than Krill. But there's just not a lot that I like about Vindicta right now. The only thing I could see is playing like a Tether Crow build and going full Spirit. Maybe even using like Vortex Web or something like that. I saw on Reddit today someone was talking about Vortex Web. Is it like this terrible item? I don't think so. I think a character like Vindicta can actually use it pretty well. Maybe with Alkfire too, and just going with this full kind of net trap build. Could be really effective, but I just don't think Vindicta's strengths are being utilized right now in the current meta. It just doesn't feel like one that is great for Vindicta, so gonna go a little bit lower. Viper's a tough one, because I hate playing against Viper. I just truly hate him. Low pick rate, which makes sense. Hard character to play, especially at low ranks. If you don't know how to slide, you're feeding on Viper like crazy, obviously. Picked or banned 100% this week in Fight Night. Pretty shocking, but Viper as a like jungle or split laner is really brutal. And these pros with very high skill ceilings can make this character work for them and provide unreal damage if you can get Viper going, because his farm is really good. That being said, I don't know if for the general populace I can recommend Viper. And I don't think Viper is that good for players below Ritualist, or even at Ritualist, probably. So I would go bottom of C tier for Viper, actually. I can see people hating this and really disagreeing with this. Like, oh, he's got a high win rate. He's picked in Fight Night. Like, yes, those are all true. And Gun Viper is terrifying. Good ults. You know, the Toxin's good. There's a lot to like about Viper. But there is a ceiling with this player, with this hero, that's higher than even a lot of these guys in B tier. That just makes it feel like it has to go lower. So, Viper doesn't have the same takeover potential that, like, Shiv does. Viper can be good, but still can be shut down. So I just can't rate it as highly as I did a Shiv or something, right? So, Viper is going to be C tier for me. Alright, one row of heroes left here. We're chugging right along. Warden, I think my second most played hero all time. I love Warden. And this patch loves Warden. Because I have Warden in A tier. It's just, where do I put him? I think at the back. So Warden is kind of an exception to the rule right now, where it feels like sustain is really good, and being able to brawl and all those things. Warden is just an ult machine. You just play Warden for ults. I think Last Stand is the name of the ult. We've seen him in Fight Night quite a bit recently, and he's doing okay as far as pick and win rate goes. So this just feels right on the nose, very solid A tier hero right now. Basically, you just get your cooldown as low as possible, use your ult as often as possible, you make it hit as hard as possible, right? So, I think I've run like Juggernaut on him before, and it's felt pretty good. Anything you can do to stay beefy, frontlining, all that kind of stuff. Gun Warden can also be good from what I've seen. I don't usually play it, but still. All right, let's look at another one here. That's gonna be Wraith. Just massively high pick rate, maybe the highest pick rate besides Lash, I guess. Very high win rate, and was banned every single time in Fight Night. That's because of Mercurial Magnum. Mercurial Magnum with card is bananas. I mean, if you are playing Deadlock right now, you have seen this, and it's probably been a menace to you. I am going to put this in S tier. I think above Geist. I think this is actually, there's a case to be made for top, but I think Shiv can still be better. Actually, I'm gonna go with Wraith at the top of S tier. Forget it. This feels like arguably the strongest build in the game. There's not much to it. You get Mercurial Magnum. You can get a few other items to kind of supplement that, like different gun items, maybe Spirit Shredder, whatever. This just feels like a really, really unbelievable character right now. Quicksilver was already a good item, and now it has this crazy upgrade, and it works so perfectly in Wraith's build. You really never have to reload. You're just throwing cards, shooting your really strong gun constantly. Your ult provides great utility. Auto fire is a good ability. You have a teleport for get out. Like, Wraith just feels like she has finally found her best moment in Deadlock thus far. However, no one in Deadlock right now is better than Abrams. I swear. Abrams is top of S for me. I think Abrams, I don't know about fighting. I think he was picked, yeah, every time. Abrams can become a full raid bot. I don't know if you've seen Ido's streams or some of these other players that really know what they're doing with Abrams. Like, I thought Shiv was going to be a problem when this patch came through and I saw some early gameplay. Abrams is like a different stratosphere. And I don't think Abrams is as hard to play as like a Shiv is, for example. So even at lower ranks, I feel like Abrams can absolutely devastate. So much life steal, unbelievable sustain. Just like a real problem. So like if you were to put together a team and you had an Abrams front line and a Wraith back line, I mean, your win percentage has to be so high, I would think. I mean, that would just be truly unbelievable. This would also be a great lane pairing. So yeah, Abrams, if you are a player who enjoys playing Abrams or you've had any success with them, this is the patch for you to hop back in and play some Abrams. Watch Ido, watch, I'll smother. I'm trying to think of other Fight Night players that play him. I tip my tongue. Who is it? This is really gonna bother me. I'm so sorry. I don't know if he was on this week, but there's a Abrams player for one of the NA or EU teams that's extremely good. I just can't remember his name. Listic. Yeah, sorry. Listic or Ido. Watch their streams. Unbelievable. All right, let's move down the list a little bit here. Calico. I have it B. And I think that's pretty fair. Calico feels firmly B tier right now. I really feel like if I have locked in on any tier in this list, it's B. Because these feel so similar right now. All 4 of these guys. Right. But Calico, I think there are builds that make sense. This is also a really high skill ceiling character. So lower pick rates because of that. I don't think people have even still figured out how to best play Calico to some degree. Didn't think we saw Calico in Fight Night, and I think that's for good reason. I think it could even be like here, maybe. Let's go here. I think better than Pocket, worse than Sinclair. The problem with Calico is it doesn't feel like there's an area of the game that she's particularly dominant in, like more than any other character. Like she can brawl, her ult has some escapability, some burst. The dash has pretty good burst. The best thing I've seen with Calico with the new patch is playing Scourge, that new 6k spirit item. Again, you just stay in close, that Torment Pulse, maybe the new Charging Fists gun item, and just play kind of melee bully Calico. That's the best thing I've seen, honestly. So, Calico very average right now to me. Poor Bebop, man. I'm telling you. Not a good Bebop patch, which is fair because I think the patch before this one, it was really unfun. Because when Bebop's good, I think Deadlock is a less fun game, period. So, oh well. Next up is Dynamo. And Dynamo, I feel like, is having a good moment as well. I'm going to go A tier above Warden because of a very similar reason for Warden. You play for the ult. The ult is so good. Dynamo Refresher is still very, very good. You can Warpstone in, whatever you need to do, Magic Carpet, Majestic Leap, whatever. His Stomp is okay. His little thing where he kind of turns into a glowing ball and avoids attacks is good for him right now. But Dynamo just provides a lot of consistent value. I thought he actually got picked, a little bit in Fight Night this week. Once, twice? Yeah? That's not bad. That's more Dynamo than we've seen in a while, if you've been keeping up with Fight Night. And I think it's fair, because I do think this is a good patch for him. In particular because, if you have like a Shiv, these 3 frontline characters existing at the top tier, Abrams, Shiv, Geist, I think is good for Dynamo. I think it gives him clear targets to get his Singularity off on, and if you have people if you have these members on, these players on your team, or even a Wraith in your team, or a Warden ult in your team, you can get a ton of value out of that ult. So feels really good right now to play Dynamo. And again, the Wombo combo with the Shiv, or the Lash rather, always good. Okay, now let's look at Geist. Geist was last patch like S tier, has very much fallen from grace. I have Geist at C tier, and I actually might put below Viper. It just doesn't, this is where one of the biggest changes in this latest patch was that fights last longer. And games have lasted probably an average of like 10 to 20% longer, I feel. And in long fights, it's harder to get value out of Talon, because you're going to have less time to float in the air. You're going to have to land. Someone's going to catch you. Your one ability is just not as strong. You need to be able to burst down targets in 1 or 2 shots, ideally. Bird is harder to get value out of because there's just more health going around. Harder to break people down. And there's no items that really feel great for Talon in this patch. So I feel like if you're a Talon or a Vindicta player, like this is just not a sniper's patch, I don't think. This is like a very mid-range brawl patch, as you're kind of seeing with my list. And so those 2 heroes are going to fall for me. But, and I think that's the case here as well. Yeah, way lower pick rate. And I don't think we saw any Talon on Fight Night. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. So, Talon is C tier for me. I would consider this, but I'm not going to. That's crazy. Alright, let's look at Haze. This is also a hero that I feel like is having a moment in this patch. Haze is. There's a lot you can do with Haze right now. I thought we saw Haze in Fight Night. Maybe it was EU this week. I can't remember. But Haze, especially with boxes being a little better and doing that strategy in the early game where, let's say you're on a side lane in particular, one of your members of your lane goes off and gets boxes while the other one stays in lane, gets solo farm up, kind of helps both of you to get a little bit of an edge. Haze and Calico are probably the 2 best characters for that right now. but I think Haze brings a lot more to the game in general. So I'm actually going to put Haze in A tier, probably right here. This feels like a good like divide between upper A tier and lower A tier, I really feel. And Haze just does feel strong. I've played against some Haze in my lobbies, you know, in Emissary, where she just feels unstoppable. I mean, if the farm gets going, Haze can feel very, very good. You can play like armor-piercing rounds with Ricochet, with Tesla, Mercurial Magnum, even with the Sleep. Just a lot you can do right now with Haze. And the ult's still very strong, so... if you are a Haze player, this is a good time to play Haze. Alright, we've got 6 more heroes left to rate. We're at a point, by the way, like and subscribe if you haven't already. The Gamehouse website is putting out Deadlock stuff all the time. It's a game that I'm going to be covering big time. I really love it. I think it has a ton of potential. So more videos, more articles to come from us at the Gamehouse, so stay tuned. Anyway, Infernus feels top of B pretty solidly. You could probably make a case where he slides into like the bottom of A tier, but let's see, yeah, B. Wow, really high pick rate. I didn't realize Infernus was that high pick rate. Whoa. Okay, so the most data of any hero, oh, okay, besides Haze, makes sense, is Infernus. And yeah, I think they're pretty close to the same tier. Infernus is one of those picks where you can have crazy games with them. You know, I watched a Mast video. Shout out Mast, great creator. His Mercurial Magnum build with Infernus went pretty hard. He used Ricochet, Magnum, and maxed Afterburn first. And it was wacky. He didn't really get to do much in the video. I think it's the most recent video that he posted. He didn't get to do a whole lot because the game ended early, but if he had gotten into the late game with Infernus there, it would have been crazy. I think his dash is strong. There's a lot to like about Infernus in this build, especially with mid-range being kind of the flavor of the week as far as battling goes. So, yeah, Infernus feels good. Like I said, A tier feels a little too high for him, but B tier feels a little too low, to be fair. So top of B tier it is. Ivy is a tricky one. I'm going to go top of C tier for Ivy. It feels like there's a lot of utility with Ivy. The stun is good. Grenade can be good. Gun Ivy can still be strong. But I mean, Ivy got played on the losing team in Fight Night. Feels like this pick that sometimes you just take if there's not much left, at least in Fight Night. I don't know. Ivy just doesn't feel great right now. It's one of those where I would talk about Ivy pretty similarly that I would talk about Viper or McGinnis, where it's like there are elements of this hero that feel really strong, but in terms of like swinging a game, I don't think Ivy's going to swing any games right now. I mean, compared to like a Wraith or a Haze or a Geist or something, right? There's just no way. So Ivy does feel pretty bad right now. Could honestly even go behind McGinnis maybe. I've seen more strong McGinnises in games than I've seen Ivy's, at least at my rank. But with the stun, with the ult being able to do things like take Urn, you know, there's some value in Ivy, for sure. Speaking of value, Kelvin. There's a lot of value in Kelvin right now. So much so that Kelvin's going to go in S tier. I think at the back, though. Kelvin right now is, I think, the most reliable kind of support-esque character. Always gets picked in Fight Night. Seems like he has since I've been watching, at least. Always has been a priority pick. Kelvin's Beam build also feels very strong, though. If you just want to kind of forget about healing or support, Beam feels really good. The Healing Dome is always such a good ultimate for securing an Urn drop or stalling something, catching someone out. I mean, if you have like a Holliday lasso into a Kelvin Dome, I mean, that's a guaranteed kill almost. So there's a lot to like about Kelvin. I think he's a good, easy-to-play character, too, if you're a newer player and you're looking for someone to pick up at a really high tier, kind of low, or high floor, rather. I think Kelvin is that pick. His gun is pretty rough early, so when you're laning, it's going to be a struggle. But you have Grenade with the self-heal. Sustain is so valuable early. That's why you see Healing Nova bot a lot in Fight Night. Healing Right has been a very common item. Like regen items have been very common early game right now. That Mystic Rejuvenation item that they put in is very good. It feels like on everyone, especially someone like Kelvin. So a lot to like about Kelvin in the current build. Path is good. You know, Ice Path is just really good utility for getting out of fights, getting around the map. which is also very good right now with boxes and things like that being better. So Kelvin just seems like he checks all the boxes. He could honestly be higher, maybe above Geist, but I think where he's at right there is pretty good. Viscous is actually one that I'm going to put above Haze. I'm going to go right here, A tier. Viscous probably isn't going to have good stats here. No, not going to get picked. He's been sneaking into some fight nights, though. Here's a Viscous pick. And I think that's fair. I think Viscous is starting to find his place in the meta as especially a counter pick. Cube in the hands of a really good player is extremely valuable. Also, Goo Ball, if you're able to control that thing, props to you. I can't do it, but Goo Ball does feel like it can be really good. He's got a sneaky good gun, can be sneaky, tanky, but with the skill required to play him, I really think he's not a good pick for someone at a lower rank. That's probably why you're seeing the stat locker stats right here. Not a great win percentage right there with Mirage and McGinnis, which would suggest probably lower. But I think there's a lot of value to be found in Viscous, and we see that in the pro level. So if you're probably like Archon or Oracle or above or something like that, I think Viscous could be one that you really look at as a solid pick. I've seen Viscous save games and also take over games. So to me, a lot of value in Viscous right now. Now we're down to the final two, Yamato, and Mirage. Interesting. Let's think. Where do I have Yamato? I think I keep saying Yamato and Yamato. I'd be curious how people say this hero's name. I think it's Yamato for the most part, but Yamato is still a late game raid boss. Either 100% pick or ban rate in Fight Night. Makes sense. I have her right there. After Warden and A tier, I actually think it should probably be here, though, if I'm like thinking about it a little bit harder. Because I think that as a character throughout the entire game is better than Warden and Dynamo. Man, it's hard to put her behind Haze, too. Then it's like I want to just keep creeping it up and up and up. This is a hard one to rank. I think it actually has to be here. Now that I'm thinking about it more and more. Because I think I'd rather have a Yamato than a Haze or a Viscous in every single game. The scaling is good. Difficult hero to play to an extent, but not bad. Pretty middling as far as stat locker win rate goes. Obviously really well liked in the pro scene for obvious reasons, but yeah, this feels pretty good for me for Yamato, so I will go middle of A tier. Just, again, late game, if you can get this hero going, unstoppable, pretty much at any rank. And you don't have to be crazy farm to do it either, so. Let's go with last pick, Mirage. Now, Mirage, okay, I was going to say, was a Fight Night staple, still is. Probably going to be lower here, yeah. 28% pick rate. Wow, it's really low. People might not like this, but I have Mirage at the bottom of B tier. I think that Mirage is really good in certain situations, like the gun is crazy for lane, still is. But I think compared to the other kinds of gun builds that are good right now, like that Wraith style and Haze style gun, even like Seven and Paradox's guns, are just way better. The TP is a great ult. I mean, you can split push like crazy and get into fights and provide value. Tornado's still really good. Scare. I mean, there's a lot of parts of his kit that are really good. But I don't know. I just don't know if he moves the needle. I mean, if I were to do anything, I would move him up in B tier a little bit. Maybe like here. I think here is actually why I feel better about that. Better than Calico and Pocket, but I would rather have Sinclair, Lash, or Infernus, I think, than Mirage. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but at least in my games, I've never seen, I rarely see at least a Mirage take over. I mean, early game pressure is one thing, but full game sustain is another. So I feel pretty good about this tier list. You know, poor Bebop down there at the bottom. I think it's fair, though. If I were to make any changes, like I said, I'd probably bump Talon down. I would maybe bump 7 up. Those would be the only two things I would do if I were to do them. But I think I like this list where it's at. So like I said, if you wanted my alternate list, it would be this. Yeah. So here's version 2. But we're going to stick with version 1, which is this. So be curious to know what you all think of this tier list. We'll go ahead and just full screen this so you all can see it in its full glory. Here's the tier list. Let me know what you all think. This is my first time putting out a Deadlock hero tier list for you all. I want to, I've been covering Fight Night, making Deadlock content with new items, but I really want to start ramping it up, especially because with the major shop update, I feel like we're close to getting a major hero update where we're going to get all those new heroes that we've seen. All the test ones are going to come out of testing, and those probably will go into testing. So Deadlock is really turning a corner as far as its development goes. Still might have a little ways to go, but really does feel like it's coming into its own and is just such a solid game. A game that I have not loved as much as I've loved a game in a long time. So let me know what you all think of this list. Be sure to like and subscribe, keep up with more content. And from our house to yours, we'll see you all next time for more Deadlock content like this one. See you next time.